I've noticed, by the way, when you say action, you just look aside. You look on the other side or like somewhere else. You don't look at you don't look at the person. You just say action. Motherfucker, who's that?
That's a 3, 2, 1. Action!
Nice, start off somewhere else. Alright. What's going on, everybody? I'm back again with another episode of Behind the Grind Monologue, and today we are talking about mentorship. Now, in the past two episodes of the podcast, I had Ahmed, a good friend of mine from childhood, and Sultan, who I've met not so long ago, but we've developed a great relationship so far. Both are in two very different points in their lives, but they both said something very interesting, which I personally believe in as well. And I've had this topic on my mind for a while now, and I thought that why not talk about it? These two guys, Ahmed and Sultan, are both two individuals who I really look up to for what they're doing and what got them to actually take that leap of faith and pursue what it is that they're doing right now. And they both said something interesting, which was about seeking mentorship. And over the past few months, because of the pandemic, because of running a business and working with many startups, I also looked a lot into the likes of Airbnb and TripAdvisor and startups like, well, none that are coming to mind right now other than Airbnb, but in that sphere, and like ghost kitchens and stuff. And one thing which stood out was that all these founder CEOs said something along the lines that seeking mentorship is what helped them go from one point to an extremely higher point as well. And that's why I think that everyone, and I actually advise this to many people who I've met, people who are working with me at Backspace, and also some kids who seek mentorship from me. I make sure that they go towards that. But the reason why I think you should be seeking it is primarily because, and these are again from my own experiences, this is what I've learned by seeking mentorship, is that I get to learn from somebody else's mistakes. I'm not saying that I don't want to go and mess around or I don't want to make mistakes, but what I am saying is that many times I've realized is that I've taken lessons from other people's lives. I've taken their obstacles that they've overcome just by hearing their stories, and I've tried to bring into context of myself. Is that what position am I in life versus the person who I'm seeking mentorship from, and how can their stories help me? And learning from their mistakes also helped me make better decisions, or so I feel I made a better decision. It allowed me to be more calculated in whatever steps I was taking. They always say is that, sometimes you just gotta risk it for the biscuit, but you also have to take a calculated risk at that time. Not everyone has that capability, that financial capability or that emotional capability of taking such a big risk just so that everything is on the line. You have to chalk it out and see what are the repercussions, what are the different outcomes of that decision. And just hearing other people's stories behind how they made certain decisions about certain instances that happened to them, certain situations which came to them, how did they overcome that? That really mattered, and I think that everyone actually could learn from that. So if you are working somewhere new, if this is your first job that you're in, or even if you're at a higher position, always try to find someone who's, I would recommend, is much older than you, or someone who you aspire to become, because that is what would help you understand, or if you manage to spot that, you will then start seeing the journey they had to take, or the path they were on, and try to align yourself with that path. And if you've understood that, if you've been able to chalk out their path, you could also speed that up possibly. But again, everything takes its own sweet time. Another reason behind understanding or learning from other people's mistakes is to understand the rationale behind their decisions, right? Everyone has to make choices. I have to make choices. You have to make choices. But if you understand the rationale behind the decisions I make, you'll be able to understand the situations, the circumstances I've been in. And that's what I seek from my mentors as well. I try to understand is that whether that be through past instances that they're sharing with me, what is it that what was going on in their lives? For example, there's a mentor of mine who I hope to have on the show one day, is in Singapore, and he's been through like tons of experiences and tons of circumstances where he's been punched in the face. And what's interesting is that at each of those punches, at each of those instances, there was something going on in his life which was life changing. At one time, he was getting married. He had left his high-flying job in investment banking. Then at another point, he left everything that he had built up over the past years, moved to a whole new country, and was faced with some more challenges over there. So you understand their context as well, which helps you understand their decision-making capabilities or their rationale, if anything, right? But one of the most important reasons that I feel that seeking mentorship has helped me, or I would recommend it to everybody, and I think that you should put this at the forefront of your brains, is to build up your own file cabinet. I had someone tell me many years ago is that tum ghode ki tarah ho. You have these blinders on, and people try to give you advice left, right, and center, unsolicited advice, and um, listen to it. You don't necessarily apply it. And even a mentor can tell you or can give you all sorts of advice, and that doesn't mean you have to apply all of it, right? They're giving it to you in your best interest. But what I've learned is, what I'd recommend is you build up that file cabinet. You take whatever people are giving you. You take their instances, you take their stories, you take their advice, you take their lessons, and you store it in your head, and you build that up. And you remember that. You try to actively remember all those lessons, all those stories, and download it in your active mind when you feel is the right time. Building up that data is only going to help you. You're going to be able to find many more outcomes of the decisions you make, and you're just going to be a little more calculated about how you move forward. And again, I'm not saying that you're going to be more risk averse so that you should be risk averse. I'm not saying any of that. But what I am saying is that you'll be able to move forward faster because now you have the answers that you need to hear, that you heard in the past that actually are relevant today, right? And lastly, why I believe in you seeking mentorship, or why again I advise people to seek mentorship, is because regardless of the situation, a good mentor is going to give you advice in context to you. They're not going to give you unsolicited advice, or so I hope they don't. I haven't had that. And it's always been in my best interest, and it's because of those mentors. And if you guys are watching this, then thank you. It's because of you guys, which is why I've come where I am right now, and where I get this push to keep moving forward and to keep doing more at all points in time. And I try to share those same lessons with everyone in the team here at Backspace, or with people outside of the company as well. I'm involved in a lot of projects. I get to work with tons of people, people who for some reason think that I'm doing cool shit, or that they can ask me for advice. And I try to make sure that I'm doing justice to that. I try to make sure that if they confide in me, then I'm giving them advice in context to them, and that it's not unsolicited, it's not generic, it's applied, right? Everyone needs that. But when it comes to you seeking mentorship, how can you do that? I think the first step, and this is what Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb, said. He said, shameless. You got to be shameless. And that I felt like was spot on, because being shameless is what's going to fuel your quest to learn and to become the best at what it is that you are seeking out to become the best at, or to do. If you're not shameless, you're not really going to be, building up that relationship with your mentor. You're not gonna ask the dumb questions that just have to be asked so that you can get it off your chest. And you're also not gonna be able to get to those tricky questions which also need to be answered. And also, you're not gonna be able to build a solid relationship. Allow yourself to be completely open and vulnerable with this person, with this mentor of yours, because they have to see you in that light. They have to see you at your worst to know that what you could become at your best, right? Another reason that I feel, another way that you can seek mentorship is to actively find the people. Again, I said this earlier, but find the people that you think are those individuals you'd like to become. There was someone who I brought on and the team at Backspace, super talented guy, and I told him was that I can't teach you your work, but what I can definitely teach you is how to become better at your own work. And since then, the relationship that I've developed with this guy has actually been more like a brotherly relationship, where I know he's going to come to me when he has when shit's hitting the fan for him, and he also knows that I'm going to spot him and catch him when he's starting to fall. And that's because of trust coming in, because he also sees is that, okay, there's this path that Asad's on, or that he has some kind of similarity in stories. I can learn from his experiences to try to overcome my hardships as well. And I did that exactly with a friend of mine who you may remember from one of the past episodes, Bilal Hamid. The guy's like an elder brother to me now. At one point, he was my boss, then became a mentor, and now we're like family. So we're mentoring each other constantly. We're coaching each other constantly. And that's because we both saw. He started seeing also. So it's interesting how the roles changed for him. Is that he started seeing that what I've managed to do in the past couple of years, and what great qualities I've developed, and is starting to learn from that and take that forward. Whereas I'm still constantly seeing how he's doing things and how he's like, making shit happen and trying to get on that path as well. So find someone who has a similar path to you or had a similar path to you and that you admire for the results that they've achieved and they've accomplished, right? And also, lastly, find someone who can tell you the stone cold truth. Like there's no point in finding someone who's going to tell you the things you need to hear, or sorry, the things that you want to hear. You're going to find someone who's going to tell you the things you need to hear, regardless of how salty it is. And that's what's really going to like help you basically, buck up and get your shit together, because you don't need to hear the fun lovey-dovey stuff all the time. Affirmation is great. Positive affirmation is always great. It pumps you up. It gives you validation. It gives you confidence for who you are right now, for what you've done. But you also got to hear the hard shit. That's what's really going to push you. But take it like that. Don't take it as spite. Don't take it like someone's hating on you. Remember, feedback is not meant to be taken personally. If you've taken feedback personally, you're not going to look at it in a rational light. And that's what I leave you with. My reasons for why you should be seeking mentorship. In the next one, we're going to talk about fitness, about why I do fitness. And then I'm thinking about doing a couple of podcasts with some people from the fitness scene. I've done one with Bilal Tariq. He's qualified for the CrossFit quarterfinals this year. He was the first Pakistani male to compete at the CrossFit Games in 2019, I think. So yeah, lots of fun stuff planned out. To the next one, everybody. Peace out. Bye-bye. और हाँ, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लाइक कीजिए, सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और बेल आइकन दबाइए। See you.